Okay. Hello and good morning, everyone. We are Team Amcor, and for this past year, we have been working on approaches to increase flexible packaging collection and recycling in Ann Arbor. This project has been in collaboration with Amcor, who is a leading packaging company based in Ann Arbor. They produce a lot of CPG products, a lot of medical and pharmaceutical products, and they came to us with this problem on how to um, streamline and suggest approaches for the flexible packaging industry for Ann Arbor specifically. So we are very glad to present the work that we have done for this year to you all. And before we talk about the problem at hand and what we worked on, this is us. We are a team of 5 interdisciplinary Dow Fellows, starting with Cameron, who is in the School of Law, Karen, who is in the School of Business, Katie, her, who did mechanical engineering is currently a grad student in the energy systems engineering. Moving on to Mackenzie, who is a MS and MBA candidate working in business as well as environment and sustainability. And last but not the least, me. Hi everyone, I'm Shloki. I'm a master's in data science student in LSA. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Shloki. So plastic waste is an increasing problem as the material is used for so many things in our modern world, as I'm sure you are all aware of. While many of you may be familiar with the recycling process of rigid plastics, just like throwing your plastic water bottles or containers in the standard recycling bin. Flexible plastics and films require a different process for recycling, which we'll touch on a little bit. So there are three main prongs to this issue. So plastics are a viable economic option for its low cost, especially when considering flexible package plastics and films, since they're so thin, such a low level of material used in them, so which has made them become increasingly popular when manufacturing plastic bags, stretch films, packaging for textile and food packaging. And so with the increased popularity comes plastic waste. So figuring out how to deal with all that. And then with increased consumption of these plastics, consumers want to recycle them, but they don't know how, since each plastic requires a different process or can be recycled to make different new products depending on its type. And so the process to recycle flexible packaging or plastics, sometimes being mechanically recycled, so physically sorting plastics based on their type, requires like different infrastructure in the MRF, which is the materials recovery facility, which is just your recycling facility. So these different types of equipment are costly for the MRFs to implement. Or there's other processes such as chemical recycling, which requires breaking down the plastics into their components. So each of these prongs to the issue causes a few different issues as well. So they can create hazardous conditions in the MRF. So low education for consumers combined with high volumes of these materials leads them to be wish cycled, which is where consumers will put them in the recycling bin without knowing whether or not they'll be recycled, which poses a few problems for the MRFs. So incorrect plastic recycling can lead to problems and hazards. As you can see, like in the picture on the right, circled in red, flexibles get mixed in with your cardboard and rigid plastics, which causes some issues such as plastic films getting physically wrapped up and caught in the equipment there, which forces them to stop the line, take all the plastics out, also just like the creating like hazards for the people working there. So ultimately, flexibles head to the landfill. They'll just get pulled off the line and just thrown out, where they contribute to the growing issue of plastics pollution, and MRFs don't reap the economic benefits of selling their flexibles to end markets where they can be repurposed. So we'll talk a little, Mackenzie will talk a little bit more about our approach to our project.
Thanks, Katie, and hi, everyone. So our goal was really to help Amcor evaluate this really thorny challenge. Specifically in Ann Arbor, we were charged with identifying a recommended collection approach. So we did this through really a landscape view of collection approaches across the United States to understand what's working in different regional areas and what could potentially be brought to Ann Arbor or invested in Ann Arbor to really gain traction. And then we put all these insights together in a business case proposal. And included collaborating with many, many stakeholders who you'll see soon to understand their really actions and connections on the ground already to really make sure that our approach that we identify is one that's actionable in the years to come. So moving forward, just some ways that we've really put forward our action in meaningful ways. We evaluated these collection approaches, so 6 different approaches, including curbside pickup, product takebacks. Those may be familiar to folks. Those were included in our landscape research. As well as consensus building, so 9 different partners throughout the Great Lakes region. Really had some wonderful in-depth interviews with them and continued collaboration throughout this year-long project. As well as our business case development, so really making sure we had some key takeaways for Amcor and also the important partners it works with in Ann Arbor to bring forward this work. So I'll bring it over to Cameron for further insights.
Hello, everybody. As Mackenzie highlighted, to do this work, we needed to figure out where to start. And by doing that, we met with 11 different stakeholders throughout this process. Within the Ann Arbor area, we met with the local city government. We met with partners of Ann Arbor, or partners of Amcor that are based in Ann Arbor, like Delterra. And then we expanded to the Great Lakes region. And then we also went as broad as across the United States as far as Omaha, Nebraska, and North Carolina. That allowed us to do both 2 MRF tours of here in Ann Arbor as well as in North Carolina as well to get an idea of different size MRFs and their capacities, as well as what efforts have been done to update those MRFs to potentially bring in and recycle flexibles and films to their MRFs, and what the potential hiccups are in going forward with that. So the result of those interviews allowed us to do a process map to figure out how the flexibles are created, get to the consumer, and then ultimately either are recycled or end up in the landfill. So we benchmarked a couple of the current collection options, and then we did an analysis through the SCORE framework, which allowed us to assess the strengths, challenges, opportunities, relationships needed to use those partnerships that are already existing for the end markets, and then potential efforts going forward, and identified a good course of action for each of the potential end markets that are within a 500-mile radius of Ann Arbor for those flexibles to go to. So from those, we were able to learn 3 key things. So first, there's an infrastructure gap. To be able to update a MRF costs a significant amount of money, from millions of dollars to potentially billions, depending on the scale of the MRF. So that's a potential issue. The second thing we learned is that within the city of Ann Arbor, residents are very highly educated on how to recycle. However, there's a low educational understanding of what it takes to recycle a flexible and film product, and so how we get there from the current recycling rate to increase the rate of recycling for flexibles. And then finally, the economics. The opportunity to expand end markets is absolutely imperative in order to be able to see the potential to recycle flexibles being an actual opportunity rather than the current low-level recycling rate that we have now. So I will turn it over to Shloki.
Yeah. So this is the final approaches, collection approach methods that we came to. We reached here like how Cameron mentioned. We reached to this conclusion based on the benchmarking methods that we did. We did those benchmarking methods based on various criteria like cost, implementation, customer participation, and based on that, we came upon approaches based on short-term and long-term. One major reason as to present short-term and long-term approaches differently was because of how intricate the whole plastics recycling infrastructure is. So for the short term, we recommend a customer drop-off location. This is just expanding on the current infrastructure that we have with retail stores or with City of Ann Arbor or the Recycle Ann Arbor. We currently have a lot of drop-off programs with Myers, and we also have a drop-off station by the Recycle Ann Arbor. So we we suggest on expanding on those for the collection of flexible plastics. This not only suggests a high participation motivation, but also is a low cost and a short term approach to the problem at hand, and also leverages the pre existing infrastructure in the city of Ann Arbor. For the long term approach, we suggested a curbside pickup program. This was suggested because of its high effectiveness. We also recognize that this requires very high implementation cost, maybe some upgrades from the MRF level, which is the materials recycling facility, and also requires a lot of collaboration and support from public and private stakeholders. But a combination of both of these approaches suggests a streamlined way to the recycling of these flexible plastics, and yeah, help the problem at hand. Okay.
So what is next? Thinking about like the limit and markets that we currently have, like we definitely need like more investment and more funding in research in trying to find a better way to use the recycles from flexibles, especially because the orange resin it doesn't have like a higher price, so it's easy for every manufacturer to use compared to using like a recycle product. The second one would be bridge the gap between the MRF infrastructure and the industry innovation, especially because when it comes about upgrading the MRF, we're talking about from 5 million to 10 million investment, which is a huge upfront cost. And considering the profit margin that you can gain from the operation itself, aside from all the impacts overall. And the last point would be future projects on consumer education, especially because of what my teammates just mentioned, the risk of the contamination. And nowadays we have only like few locations that can recycle flexibles, and the percentage that we are able to collect is very, very, very small. So we definitely need to increase awareness regarding this point. And the biggest question, I'll pass to Mackenzie.
Sure. So this is kind of our existential question. It's one that we don't have an answer to, but one that we charge everyone with thinking about, no matter what your perspective and background is, or the different kind of day-to-day activities you engage with. How do we continue to produce and also consume flexibles? How can we also see innovation and partnership from industry to really bring forward the critical need of flexibles, while also making sure that they're used in a way that can increase circularity and recycling along the way. So one question that we hope everyone in this room can think more deeply about as you leave this presentation. And meanwhile, thank you very much to all of our partners for this work. Amcor, Caitlin sitting up there, we really appreciate all your partnership throughout this year. Jennifer Ronk at Dow was also a key partner, as well as so many other organizations you see here. We really were thankful for their expertise.